This is the sign you begged me for in secret. Tonight, everything shifts. I was never ignoring your prayers. I was building the exact door your destiny required. My beloved child, stop for a moment and listen to me carefully, because what you are hearing right now is not an accident. You asked me for a sign during nights when nobody else saw your tears. You asked me for confirmation during moments when your faith became tired from waiting. You asked me if I still remembered your prayers while disappointment slowly tried to convince your heart that nothing would ever change. And tonight I answer you directly. This is the sign you cried for. This is the confirmation your weary soul has been searching for. I need you to stay with me through every word, because heaven did not bring you here by coincidence. I've something important to reveal to your spirit tonight, something that will explain the delays, the silence, the heartbreak, and the waiting season that almost made you lose hope completely. I know there were nights when you looked toward heaven and wondered if your prayers had disappeared into silence. You kept asking why answers seemed delayed while everyone around you appeared to move forward with their lives. You watched doors open for others, while your own path felt blocked again and again. There were moments when you became so emotionally exhausted from waiting that even praying felt difficult. Your heart grew tired of hoping for change while disappointment kept arriving instead. And slowly, fear started whispering lies into your thoughts. Fear told you that perhaps I had forgotten you. Fear told you that maybe your breakthrough would never come. Fear convinced you that silence meant abandonment. But my child, hear me clearly tonight. I was never ignoring you. Not for 1 second. Every prayer reached me. Every tear touched heaven. Every sleepless night became part of conversations concerning your future. You thought delay meant rejection, but delay was actually construction. While you were crying over closed doors, I was building a greater entrance ahead of you. While you were asking why things were not moving, I was arranging details your eyes could not yet see. My beloved child, I am not slow. I am strategic. Human beings rush because they only see the present moment, but I see the full picture of your life from beginning to end. I know what would hurt you later. I know what would destroy your peace if it arrived too early. I know which people secretly carried danger into your future. I know which opportunities look beautiful on the surface but contain pain hidden beneath them. And because I love you deeply, I refuse to release certain things before the right time arrived. There were moments when you begged me to open specific doors immediately. You prayed desperately for certain relationships to survive. You cried over opportunities you thought were perfect for your future. But what you could not see was that some of those doors would have led you into seasons that damaged your soul far more deeply than temporary disappointment ever could. My child, I closed doors because I saw consequences you could not yet understand. I delayed certain blessings because your spirit still needed preparation before receiving them. I removed certain people because they would have distracted you from the destiny waiting ahead. None of this happened because I wanted to hurt you. It happened because I refused to let temporary emotions destroy the future I designed for your life. I know waiting has exhausted you. I know you became tired of hearing people tell you to just trust the process while your own heart silently carried disappointment after disappointment. Some days you smiled around others while secretly questioning whether your life would ever truly change. You prayed for healing while still carrying pain. You prayed for peace while anxiety kept attacking your thoughts. You prayed for movement while everything around you seemed frozen in place. But my beloved child, there were invisible things happening during your waiting season that you could not yet recognize. Heaven was moving quietly while your eyes focused only on visible delays. While you waited, I was building doors nobody could close. I was arranging divine connections. I was aligning timing, opportunities, protection, wisdom, and preparation all at once. What I am preparing for you cannot arrive incomplete because your future carries weight beyond what you currently understand. That is why the delay lasted longer than you expected. Small blessings require little preparation, but the answer I have prepared for your life required deep construction beneath the surface. I was strengthening your spirit while simultaneously preparing the environment your future needs in order to survive. You saw silence, but heaven saw preparation. You saw delay, but I saw development. You saw disappointment, but I saw protection operating through hidden wisdom. My child, I stored every prayer you whispered through tears. Not one word was wasted. Not one cry disappeared into emptiness. I heard you when you asked me if things would ever improve. I heard you when you prayed for your broken heart to heal. I heard you when fear kept you awake at night worrying about your future. I heard you when loneliness became so heavy that silence itself felt painful. And even during moments where you believed nothing was happening, I was carefully building answers larger than what you originally requested. You asked for relief, but I prepared restoration. You asked for survival, but I prepared transformation. You asked for small change, but I prepared complete breakthrough. Say, I will praise you before the breakthrough if you're trusting his timing. You know why the enemy fought your mind so fiercely during this season. Because darkness recognized movement happening around your future long before you recognized it yourself. The enemy wanted delay to create hopelessness inside your spirit. You wanted waiting to make you quit before the breakthrough arrived. You wanted disappointment to poison your ability to trust me again. That is why fear attacked your thoughts constantly. That is why exhaustion stayed so heavy on your heart. But even while you struggled emotionally, my hand remained over your life, protecting the very future the enemy was trying to stop. I know there were moments where you almost gave up completely. Moments where disappointment became so deep that you quietly stopped expecting good things anymore. Your heart became careful because too much pain made hope feel dangerous. You feared dreaming again because previous heartbreak taught you how painful disappointment could become. But my precious child, your story was never ending in delay. Your waiting season was never permanent. The silence was only temporary because construction takes time when heaven is preparing something greater than your imagination currently understands. And tonight, I need you to hear this with your entire soul. The shift has already begun. The heaviness that followed you for so long is beginning to break. The season of constant delay is reaching its ending point. The prayers you thought were forgotten are now moving toward fulfillment. I did not store your tears for nothing. I did not carry you through painful seasons just to abandon your story halfway through. No, my beloved child. I was preparing a moment exactly like this one, a moment where confusion begins turning into clarity, where waiting begins turning into movement, where fear begins losing power over your future. This is why I brought you here tonight. This is why your spirit feels drawn to these words. Because deep inside your soul, you already sense that something is shifting. You already feel that the season around your life is changing. The doors I have been building quietly are almost ready to open before you. The answers I have been preparing are almost ready to appear. And when they arrive, you will finally understand why I allowed the delay to last as long as it did. I am not answering you in part, my child. I am answering you in full. not temporary peace but deep restoration, not small movement but lasting breakthrough, not fragile hope but renewed strength strong enough to carry your future. The waiting season did not destroy you because I never intended for delay to become your permanent home. It was only preparation for the doors now standing before your life. So breathe again tonight. Trust me again tonight. Hope again tonight. Because this is the sign you asked me for, and heaven is already moving closer to your breakthrough than your pain realizes. My beloved child, I need you to quiet your heart for a moment and truly listen to me now, because there is something your pain has tried to hide from you for far too long. I heard every prayer you thought I ignored. I heard every whisper you released into the darkness when your heart became too tired to pray loudly anymore. I heard every silent cry hidden behind your smile. I heard the trembling in your voice during nights when fear sat heavily on your chest and sleep refused to comfort your mind. Not one prayer escaped my attention. Not one tear fell without heaven noticing it. You may have believed silence meant I was distant from you, but my child, I was closer to you during those painful nights than you have ever realized. I know there were moments when you prayed with everything inside you and still watched situations remain unchanged. You begged for relief, but the pressure stayed. You prayed for answers, but confusion continued surrounding your life. You asked me to remove certain pain, yet the storm remained longer than your heart felt capable of enduring. And slowly, disappointment began whispering dangerous lies into your spirit. You started wondering whether your prayers mattered anymore. You questioned whether heaven truly saw your suffering. Some nights, you even stopped praying altogether because exhaustion convinced you that silence was the only answer you would ever receive. But my beloved child, your prayers never disappeared into emptiness. Every word reached me. Every desperate cry touched my heart deeply. I was never absent from your suffering. I was listening even in the silence. Please support our channel. Our work is to bring happiness in your life and devotion to God. And if you want, you can donate to us, given link in description or pinned comment to show your support. Do you remember those nights where your thoughts became heavier than your strength? Nights where you sat alone trying to understand why life kept hurting you in the same places. You replayed memories inside your mind until your chest felt tight from emotional exhaustion. You carried burdens nobody else fully understood because some pain cannot easily be explained with words. People around you saw your outside appearance, but they did not see the silent battles raging inside your soul every day. They did not see how hard you fought just to remain emotionally steady. They did not see how loneliness quietly followed you even in crowded rooms. But I saw everything, my child. I saw the tears you wiped away quickly before anyone noticed. I saw the fear hidden behind your strength. I saw the exhaustion hidden behind your patience. There were also moments where you questioned your own worth because your prayers seemed delayed for so long. You looked around at others receiving blessings while your own heart remained stuck in waiting seasons filled with uncertainty. You wondered whether you had done something wrong. You wondered if perhaps you were forgotten somehow. But hear me clearly tonight. Delay was never rejection. Silence was never abandonment. And your waiting season was never proof that I stopped loving you. Human beings often mistake silence for absence because they cannot see what is happening behind closed doors. But my child, heaven was working even while you cried through the waiting. While you prayed for immediate answers, I was protecting you from unseen harm. While you begged me to open certain doors, I saw a hidden pain waiting behind them. While you cried over relationships ending, I saw futures that would have slowly destroyed your peace if those people remained. You only saw present heartbreak, but I saw consequences stretching far into your future. That is why some prayers required waiting. That is why some answers arrived slowly. Because I was not only thinking about your current emotions, I was protecting your destiny. I know you became tired of waiting. I know there were moments where your faith felt emotionally exhausted from disappointment after disappointment. Some days you forced yourself to stay hopeful while secretly feeling numb inside. You encouraged others while quietly wondering if your own breakthrough would ever arrive. You smiled around people while silently carrying fears about your future that nobody else knew existed. But my child, even when your faith became weak, mine never weakened toward you. Even when you struggled to trust me fully, I continued protecting your life faithfully behind the scenes. There were prayers you cried out through tears that you barely even remember now, but I remember every single one. I remember when you asked me for peace because anxiety became too overwhelming. I remember when you asked me to heal your broken heart after betrayal shattered your trust. I remember when loneliness became so deep that silence itself started hurting you emotionally. I remember when you questioned whether life would ever truly become lighter again. And my beloved child, I stored every prayer carefully. Not one word was wasted. Not one tear was meaningless. Heaven collected your pain while simultaneously preparing your answers. The enemy wanted your waiting season to poison your faith completely. He whispered lies telling you that nothing was changing. He wanted disappointment to harden your heart until trusting me again felt impossible. He wanted delay to convince you that your prayers carried no power. But the enemy could not see what heaven was building quietly during your waiting season. He saw tears, but he could not see restoration moving toward you. He saw delay, but he could not see preparation unfolding behind the scenes. He saw exhaustion, but he could not see the strength being developed inside your spirit through endurance. My precious child, there is a reason your spirit still kept reaching toward me even during your darkest moments. There is a reason you are still here after everything you survived emotionally. There is a reason your soul continued searching for hope even when disappointment became heavy. That reason is because my hand never left your life. Even during nights where you felt emotionally abandoned, I remained close beside you. Even during moments where your prayers felt unanswered, I was already arranging future breakthroughs your eyes could not yet see. You often wanted immediate answers because your pain felt urgent, and I understood your desperation completely. But some blessings required deeper preparation than your heart realized at the time. If I had answered certain prayers immediately, they would have arrived before you were emotionally ready to carry them. Some doors required spiritual maturity before they could safely open. Some relationships required healing inside your heart before they could truly survive. Some blessings needed timing aligned perfectly in ways only heaven could arrange. So while you interpreted waiting as punishment, it was actually protection guided by wisdom greater than temporary emotions can understand. My beloved child, I need you to stop believing the lie that your prayers were ignored simply because the answers did not arrive quickly. I am not human. I do not forget your cries when days become difficult. I do not grow tired of hearing your voice during painful seasons. I do not abandon you when your faith struggles beneath pressure. I listened carefully to every prayer you released through tears. I stored every hope hidden inside your heart. And even now, while you continue questioning what comes next, heaven is already moving closer toward your breakthrough. Do you know how many times I protected your future without you realizing it? There were situations that could have completely destroyed your peace if I had not intervened quietly. There were people who secretly carried darkness into your life, but I removed them before greater damage could happen. There were opportunities that looked beautiful on the surface, but would have wounded your spirit deeply later. You cried because you thought you were losing blessings, but many times you were actually being rescued from hidden pain. One day your heart will fully understand why some prayers required waiting and why some answers arrived differently than you expected. But tonight I need you to hear this clearly. The season of believing your prayers were ignored is ending now. The answers you cried for are no longer far away. The movement you begged heaven for is already beginning around your life. What I stored during your waiting season is now preparing to unfold before you in ways greater than your imagination currently understands. So trust me again, my child. Pray again. Hope again. Because I heard every prayer you thought I ignored, and soon your heart will finally see that heaven was listening the entire time. My beloved child, I know the waiting wounded your heart more deeply than people around you ever understood. I know there were moments where delay felt personal. You prayed sincerely, trusted faithfully, waited patiently, and still watched doors remain closed while others around you moved forward. You asked me for answers, but silence stretched longer than you expected. You begged for movement, but life seemed frozen in the same painful place. And because the waiting lasted so long, disappointment slowly convinced your heart that perhaps I was rejecting you. But hear me clearly tonight, because this truth is important for your healing. The delay was never rejection. Not once. Not for a single moment. The waiting season was not proof that I forgot you. It was proof that I was preparing something too important to release before the proper time arrived. You saw closed doors and assumed your prayers failed. But my child, many of those closed doors were actually acts of protection. You cried over opportunities disappearing because you could only see the present moment. I could see your future. I knew which paths secretly carried pain hidden beneath temporary excitement. I knew which people would slowly drain your peace if they remained connected to your life. I knew which environments would weaken your spirit little by little until you no longer recognized yourself emotionally. So while you begged me to open certain doors, I kept them closed because I love you too much to allow temporary desires to destroy permanent purpose. I know it hurt watching things not work out the way you hoped. I know rejection bruised your confidence. Some nights you replayed situations inside your mind wondering what you could have done differently. You blamed yourself for doors closing. You questioned your worth because relationships ended unexpectedly. You thought perhaps you were not enough because opportunities slipped away from your hands. But my beloved child, not every closed door was a reflection of your value. Some doors closed because they could not carry the destiny waiting ahead of you. Some people walked away because they were assigned only to a temporary chapter, not your full journey. And some delays happened because heaven was building stronger foundations beneath your future before releasing the answer you cried for. Do you know how dangerous it would have been if certain blessings arrived before your spirit was ready to carry them? You asked me for things your current emotional strength could not yet sustain safely. You prayed for open doors while still carrying wounds that needed healing first. You asked for elevation while your confidence still depended too heavily on human approval. My child, I delayed certain answers because I wanted your blessing to last, not collapse under pressure later. Immediate answers may comfort human emotions temporarily, but wisdom prepares people properly before releasing greater responsibility into their hands. You became frustrated because you measured heaven's movement according to visible results. If you could not immediately see change, you assumed nothing was happening. But my precious child, some of the greatest work I perform happens invisibly before visible breakthrough finally appears. A seed grows underground long before fruit becomes visible above the surface. Foundations are built beneath the ground before beautiful structures can safely stand. And in the same way, I was strengthening hidden places inside your spirit while simultaneously preparing external answers around your life. While you waited, I was teaching you lessons comfort could never reveal. I was teaching you patience in a generation obsessed with instant results. I was teaching you dependence on my presence instead of temporary circumstances. I was teaching you discernment through disappointment. I was teaching you how to survive emotionally without placing your identity inside people, success, or human approval. These lessons were not punishment. They were preparation. Because the future I designed for you requires deeper strength than your past version of yourself currently possessed. I know there were nights when delay made you feel forgotten. You watched time pass while your prayers remained unanswered. You saw others celebrating breakthroughs while your own heart quietly carried disappointment after disappointment. And eventually, your spirit became tired of hoping too deeply because pain trained you to expect delay instead of movement. But my child, delay was never proof that your breakthrough would not come. Delay only meant timing still mattered. Human beings rush because they fear missing opportunities. I move strategically because I see every detail surrounding your future all at once. There were people connected to your destiny who were not ready yet. There were opportunities still being prepared. There were spiritual battles happening around your future that required protection before doors could safely open. There were weaknesses inside your own heart that needed healing before certain blessings could enter your life without damaging your peace later. You only saw waiting. I saw alignment happening slowly behind the scenes. The enemy wanted delay to poison your trust completely. He whispered lies telling you that silence meant abandonment. He used disappointment to make your prayers feel powerless. You wanted your heart to become bitter from waiting so you would stop believing breakthrough was still possible. But the enemy could not see what heaven was quietly constructing during your waiting season. Every delay carried purpose. Every silence carried hidden preparation. Every closed door protected you from something your eyes could not yet understand. My beloved child, there were moments where you almost settled for less simply because waiting exhausted your heart emotionally. You considered accepting relationships that lacked peace because loneliness became too heavy. You considered abandoning dreams because disappointment stayed too long. You considered giving up on yourself because progress felt invisible. But I would not allow temporary exhaustion to steal the future I prepared for your life. That is why certain things fell apart even when you desperately wanted them to survive. Not because I wanted to hurt you, but because I refused to let you build your life upon foundations that could not sustain your destiny. Do not mistake delay for denial anymore. Do not measure my love according to how quickly answers appear. I am not ignoring your future. I am protecting it carefully. There are blessings coming into your life now that require stronger wisdom, deeper faith, and healthier emotional foundations than before. And because I intend to answer you fully instead of partially, I refuse to release things prematurely before the proper season arrived. You prayed for peace, but first I had to remove environments destroying your spirit quietly. You prayed for love, but first I had to heal wounds affecting the way you viewed yourself. You prayed for purpose, but first I had to strengthen your character beneath the surface. You prayed for open doors, but first I had to build doors strong enough to support the future attached to them. Comment, you are my endless victory. God, if his hand has saved you. My child, if I had given you everything immediately, you might never have discovered how deeply you truly needed me. Comfort often keeps people shallow spiritually, but waiting developed depth inside your soul. Delay taught you endurance. Silence taught you trust. Pain taught you dependence upon my presence rather than temporary outcomes. And while the process exhausted you emotionally at times, it also prepared you for blessings greater than what your earlier self could have safely carried. Tonight, I need you to stop viewing your waiting season through the eyes of disappointment alone. Look deeper now. You are not the same person you were before the delay began. You became wiser, stronger, more discerning, more spiritually aware, more emotionally resilient. The delay changed you because preparation was happening inside you while answers were simultaneously being prepared around you. And now the season is shifting. The waiting that once confused your heart is beginning to reveal purpose. The delays that once felt painful are preparing to make sense. What you cried over before will eventually become evidence of how carefully I protected your future all along. The delay was never rejection, my beloved child. It was strategic love preparing your life for something greater than your current pain could yet understand. My beloved child, while you were sitting in frustration wondering why nothing seemed to move, I was building doors your eyes could not yet see. While you cried over delays, heaven was working quietly behind the scenes with precision greater than your understanding. You thought your life was standing still, but there was movement happening in places hidden from human sight. I need you to understand this deeply tonight because your pain has caused you to misinterpret the waiting season completely. You believe a delay meant inactivity. But my child, silence does not mean stillness. Just because you could not see visible results did not mean I stopped moving on your behalf. There were nights where you questioned whether your future would ever change. You stared at the same problems for so long that hopelessness slowly started convincing your heart that this was all life would ever become. You watched days pass, weeks passed, months passed. Some prayers remained unanswered so long that disappointment settled deeply into your spirit. And because human eyes naturally focus on visible evidence, you assumed nothing was happening behind the scenes. But my beloved child, heaven was never inactive during your waiting season. I was carefully constructing doors that required far more preparation than you realized. You asked me for one blessing, but I was preparing something larger than what your prayers originally imagined. That is why the delay lasted longer than your emotions preferred. Small answers arrive quickly because they require little preparation. But the future I am building for you carries weight. It carries purpose. It carries influence. And because I intend to answer you fully instead of partially, I refuse to release unfinished blessings into your life prematurely. While you were waiting, I was aligning people whose lives would eventually connect to your destiny. I was shifting circumstances that needed to move before the next chapter could safely open. I was protecting opportunities from collapsing before the proper season arrived. I was arranging timing with precision beyond what your human mind could calculate. My child, there are things happening around your future right now that would overwhelm you if you could fully see them all at once. What looks like delay from your perspective is actually careful construction from mine. Do you know how many unseen battles happened around your life during this waiting season? There were attacks against your future you never recognized. There were traps hidden in places you almost walked into emotionally. There were people smiling around you while secretly carrying intentions that could have damaged your peace deeply later. And while you cried because certain doors stayed closed, my hand remained firmly against those doors because I saw dangers your heart could not yet recognize. You only saw temporary disappointment. I saw hidden destruction waiting behind premature opportunities. My precious child, some of the things you begged me to release immediately would have crushed you emotionally if they arrived before your spirit was prepared to carry them. You prayed for elevation while still healing from wounds that affected your confidence. You prayed for greater responsibility while still battling fear secretly inside your mind. You prayed for open doors while still carrying attachments that would have followed you into your future and damaged what I intended to build there. So while you viewed waiting as painful punishment, heaven viewed it as loving preparation. There were moments when you became angry because life felt unfair. You watched others receive answers while your own prayers seemed suspended in silence. You compared your journey to people around you and wondered why your path carried so much delay. But my child, never compare your construction process to someone else's visible season. Different futures require different foundations. Some lives carry smaller assignments requiring little preparation. But what I am building for you cannot survive upon weak foundations. The doors opening before your future now require emotional maturity, spiritual wisdom, endurance, discernment, and deep trust in me. That kind of strength is not created overnight. While you waited, I was also rebuilding parts of your heart damaged by previous pain. I could not release new blessings into hands still bleeding from old wounds. I needed to heal your thinking before elevating your life. I needed to strengthen your spirit before increasing responsibility around you. I needed to remove certain fears before opening doors requiring greater courage. And although the process felt painfully slow from your perspective, every hidden moment of preparation carried purpose beyond what your present emotions could understand. You often prayed for immediate escape from discomfort, but I was creating permanent transformation instead. Human beings naturally desire relief, but I desire restoration. Relief removes pressure temporarily. Restoration rebuilds lives completely. And because I love you deeply, I refuse to settle for temporary comfort when your future required deeper healing and stronger foundations. The enemy wanted waiting to create bitterness inside your soul. He whispered lies telling you that your life would never move forward. He used silence to make you question your value. He wanted disappointment to weaken your trust in me little by little until hope itself became painful to carry. But the enemy could not stop what heaven was building quietly behind closed doors. He saw tears, but he could not see preparation. He saw exhaustion, but he could not see construction. He saw waiting, but he could not see movement already unfolding around your destiny. Type yes, Lord. I trust you more than myself if you've surrendered control. And share this video.